This film was made as part of the Common Cause Research Project, which aims to understand how universities and Black and minority ethnic communities build collaborations. Each of these films tells a different story of how these collaborations might work. They range from long-term partnerships to short-term projects and events. The films are designed to prompt discussion and reflection. We encourage you to ask, what questions might be learned for the future from these stories?
Instruments India. Using Indian musical instrument sounds, this project created a new digital resource and a new body of compositions exploring the collaboration between Indian classical and electroacoustic music.
Electroacoustic music is music composed with technological forces. It uses a range of different sort of technological tools to create it, but fundamentally it's music for loudspeakers.
My role involves music production, leading music education, artist development projects, and also research and new projects, particularly our links with universities and other academic institutions.
My job role here mainly consists of teaching students about composition and the technology we use.
So there was an idea by the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Gerald Pillay, to bring us in and help to create a presence, awareness, and also an expertise in Indian classical arts at the university. We have a Saturday art school there, we have a number of workshops and events. And so what happened was we began to know the academics at Hope University. One of the first people to come to us was Dr. Manuela Blackburn, and she wanted to simply see whether there was a way of electroacoustic music and Indian classical music working together.
When I started sort of scratching the surface of what those Millat Fest concerts were made up of, there were other sounds that I could explore. That inspiration as a composer to get fresh and novel sound is so enticing and fascinating for me because it offers me a whole range of sounds that I've never composed with.
We're always interested in taking Indian classical music to different spheres. So if we can share it with musicians from different backgrounds or different audiences, then experimental projects are always welcome.
There was a funding call from the HRC which was entitled Translating Cultures, and this seemed to fit the idea quite well.
What was a struggle? Ultimately, one of the successes of the project has been the fact that there has been mutual respect. But I think at the beginning it was hard to get to that point.
And that learning process happened two ways. Alok from Millat Fest spent a lot of time understanding what my role was in the university and what I needed, and vice versa. I spent a lot of time understanding Millat Fest, and I went to their meetings. I started to understand how they work as an organisation. Without that understanding, the project would not have evolved at all. When we started the project, we realised that Millat Fest had a website, but they had no supporting material to talk about instruments. And a lot of their audiences come from the local community. Sometimes they don't know what they're watching, sometimes they're curious about the instruments. And we thought this would be a wonderful way for them to actually just see and hear and know a bit more about what they were watching on stage. So this is the Dilruba, performed by Kirpal Singh.
Manuela was looking for more than just a piece of music from the artist.
So I'd meet with the musician individually, and we would sit together and talk through what I was doing, and then we'd have a recording session and capture sound. Sometimes that was a fairly quick process, 20 minutes to an hour. Sometimes it would take much longer, and that became quite a key finding from the project. It's not a sound source, it's actually a human being that I'm recording.
You know, she couldn't just go to an instrument and say, play that and play this, and why are you playing like that, and why don't you hit it here, why don't you pluck it there?
I needed to sort of understand the cultural differences and how they were going to be willing to give me what I was looking for and what they perhaps needed in return. An interesting finding from the project was to see how Western instruments were played in Indian classical music.
So our artists were there to either do one or the other. You know, they were interested in performing and collaborating, or they wanted to share the background and tradition of their instrument.
Another of my favourites is the Gungru Bells, and this was performed by Aditi Sen. I wanted to sort of reassure the musicians that this had an ethical sort of component, and I was very keen to sort of have them willingly participate. There were times where musicians didn't want to, and that was fine, and we never made a big deal out of it.
Sometimes we were trying to record an artist who was in the middle of a very busy world tour, and one or two occasions I remember the artist actually had just given their whole, given everything for a concert, and then would change their mind about offering to do the recording because they were just drained.
So this next one is the Mridangam, performed by Satish Kumar. Once the sound was captured, I took it into the studio, I edited it, I cut it up, I cleaned it up, I played with it, I modified it, and I put them together in Pro Tools, which you can see here. In this particular composition, I used 16 tracks, and as you can see, they're sort of all stacked together. And when you click on a particular part and press the spacebar, it'll play how those sounds are all sort of orchestrated together. It's a bit like a sort of symphony score where you might have your violins and your cellos and so on.
What was a surprise? I would say the fact that we could have a piece of music, an Indian and electroacoustic piece of music that people could listen to.
As a result of the project, 2 pieces were composed. One piece was for loudspeakers, so it's an acousmatic piece where there's no visual, it's just an oral experience. And the second piece was a live piece for Sarod and electronics.
Manuela was asked by Rajib to sit on stage with him, and both of them were doing something really out of their comfort zone.
Rajib didn't want to score, he wanted to just play from memory, and he did a lot of memorization. But we found that because he was playing with a fixed electronic part, he needed some way of knowing when to come in, when to stop. So we devised a way for him to look at the waveform of the electronic part to see where the intensity was sort of building to, and then when it would drop out.
What was missed? If we have missed something, it may have been giving the opportunity for Indian musicians to contribute more to the compositions. Particularly, there are a lot of young adult and emerging artists who would love to get into electroacoustic composition.
What was a surprise? The funding only covered certain outputs, but we went a step further and delivered more, which was really nice that we could show off that we could do that.
Universities have been criticised for having a lot of fantastic data or knowledge or track record or histories of doing some fantastic work, which people don't know about. And I think arts organisations in particular would benefit a lot from the kind of knowledge that universities are sitting on.
The project lifetime of 9 months was completed, but the projects and the collaboration is still very much in progress. We've been working together on sort of offshoots from the project, such as the commissioning project. We set that up together, we did the app together, so that is still very much ongoing.
And what we wanted to really share is that both in university and in the art sector, we have to keep measuring the impact of our work and the benefit it's bringing to people. And so in that sense, we helped each other quite a lot, because I think universities are under pressure to do that. Arts organisations have direct access to audiences and young people and students. But in short, it helped us to do a research project which had both academic and public benefit.
If you are interested in finding out more about the project, please go to the Common Cause website.